And O'Sullivan is up against an in-form opponent in Mark Allen, who's beaten the world #1 Mark Selby, not only last week but this week. He's beaten O'Sullivan twice in 4 attempts, and not in low-profile events either. Once in the World Championship, once in the Masters. Wasn't attempting to get up right behind the green. Was intending to leave the cue ball on the ball cushion.
Foul.
Where's the red going?
Mark Allen, 4.
Yes, because that becomes the most important part there. The red is, well, not easy to pot from in hand. So, something at long range to start him off. I think the general opinion was the table played beautifully this afternoon, and the match was played beautifully by the two players, with John Higgins eventually winning, but the breaks were flowing. I think the table fitters occasionally get a bit of stick from the players when conditions aren't right, but today apparently everything was right, and it's worth noting, giving a bit of credit, because they work very hard. And it's a full house in here tonight. It's great. It's brilliant atmosphere. And if you can't go out there and be inspired by these conditions, then nothing will ever
7.
make you want to play snooker.
O'Sullivan's very hard to please in terms of his own performances.
12.
He's got a plant of those two reds. It's to the right jaw, top jaw, but he made it into a plant that went into the middle of the pocket.
13.
Yes, to continue my point, sometimes he gets very down on himself when he doesn't play as well as he thinks he should, but his next standard, his B standard, is pretty good, and let's not forget that
16.
a few weeks ago he came very near to winning the European Masters before Judd Trump played brilliantly to come from 2 down with 3 to play to beat him 9-8 in Bucharest.
Thanks. 17.
Well, the reds are nicely split, actually. Wow, that is not something I saw coming. Okay, he was doing a bit
Ronnie
with the cue
O'Sullivan,
ball,
17.
swinging it around 2 cushions with left-hand side. When you see it from that angle, actually, there was a degree of difficulty about the pot, because naturally, I think, screwing into the bunt, so he misses it on the thick side. Not an excuse, but sometimes more understandable. These guys do miss, but there's often a reason. That's pretty good. I think available on the right side of the table, which is totally blocked off. It might be just the edge of that left-hand red that he can get to, but he's got to really catch it thin. Otherwise, that is what happens, either in off or the rattle in the jaws. So Ronnie's not entirely settled in. He's played 3 shots that have been loose. You know, that last one, the miss blue, and initially where he went in off, playing a long red. It's a few days since he got through. He was in the first group, so he's been back home and arrives back here for what he hopes will be the next couple of days.
Well, O'Sullivan got away with his last mistake anyway. In fact, he's got away with all 3. Well, a mile too thin.
I think he was trying to steer the cue ball through a gap for safety, but he got every part of the shot wrong.
One. Four. Five.
Well, once again, not quite in behind the next red perfectly.
11.
Well, he's really stretching on this. He's trying to cue this under his body. I've seen Mark Williams do that with great success, but not too many other players. That's why he's moved on to a different shot.
12.
He's on the brown. He's one key shot away from getting right in, I think. And landing on the red to the right of the pink
16.
suggests he's almost there now.
17.
Well, it makes the pink accessible from both sides if it comes back on the black spot subsequently.
That'll do. Up for the
22.
blue this time again.
$23.
And that is perfect. This time he really has got the cue ball exactly where he wants it.
$28.
Well, once again, he played on the red next to the pink to get that into open play, but he's a bit short on that one.
$29.
Not a classical O'Sullivan break so far, because once again he's slightly lost the cue ball there. All the time the points are totting up though, and
32.
Mark probably feels that maybe Ronnie has got away with 1 or 2 opportunities early in the frame and nothing really clear cut.
33.
So, the next pot on this red will be frame ball
38.
playing snookers.
So this decisive break will surely settle
44.
any nerves that O'Sullivan had, and as good as he is
45.
human, and with this atmosphere and a big match, you don't feel quite as you do every day.
51. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 51 on the frame.
So Ronnie O'Sullivan leads Mark Allen by a frame to nil.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions and our second semi-final. John Higgins having won the opening semi. Here, it's a battle
Second
between
frame.
Ronnie O'Sullivan
Mark
and
Allen
Mark
to break.
Allen. O'Sullivan has taken the opening frame, and this is now the second.
There was a scrappy start to the opening frame before O'Sullivan settled in to a frame-winning break of 51.
Yes, it was slightly sort of round the houses break for Ronnie by his high standards of break building and cue ball control, but hey, he made the break, won the frame from it. That's all that really matters at this point. We're so used to seeing him with impeccable cue ball control.
Well, O'Sullivan hit that safety all wrong, but maybe he's got away with it.
I think this was what he was saying the other day when I spoke to him, Clive, that, you know, he feels he's scoring heavily, but other parts of his game need to be sharpened up, and we kind of have already seen that in the frame and a bit tonight.
Yes, he added that he felt he maybe played too many exhibitions, either against poor players where it really doesn't matter if you miss because they can't make a 30 break anyway, or even against another top player because the result is immaterial. So you don't really get the practice in broken play that in a way you can only get from tournaments. And O'Sullivan has been relatively sparing in the tournaments he's entered for the last 2 seasons, but we're all glad to hear he's playing a much fuller programme this season.
That's unlucky if he stuck the red. Maybe not so unlucky now that the brown's covered it. My last point on that, Clive, I think the other thing about those exhibitions he's been playing, he's been entertaining a lot of people, but I'm pretty sure the pocket's a little bit bigger than tournament templates, and sometimes that can lead you in a slightly false sense of security as to how you're playing. These pockets offer you nothing that doesn't actually go in the first place, or should go in.
O'Sullivan seems to have a slightly different attitude these days. Instead of searching for an elusive and perhaps unattainable perfection by changing little things, he seems to have settled for playing with what he's got, which of course is a lot, and just hoping that he'll play himself into the kind of form which enables him to win titles.
Well, he's got a good weight on that safety shot. It wasn't a natural around the table. He hit the red thick, but swung the cue ball round, put Mark in bother. Now there is a red that he could go for to the right corner, but it seems that the cue ball would head into the other red below it, down underneath the black. So that would be no good. Would equate to poor value.
That was just a safety. But it may not be safe, because the cue ball just nudged that red.
It's a good shot. They've been fiendishly difficult along that cushion all week. That's a much better shot than it looked. It's not a natural to go into them. He's played it well.
8. Nine.
Snooker, a game for all ages.
15. 16.
And O'Sullivan made his first century when he was 10.
Well, he could have gone to them there, but as you saw from that excellent camera angle, the pinky's just above
21.
the bunch. It makes it more difficult to get the reds
22.
open. The pink's halfway protecting them, but from this angle, there's nothing in the way. So he'll go into them here. Well, he played it quite well. Obviously, the reds have not opened, but the cue ball was
29.
steered over to that left-hand side of the table where there is a red. Was always going to be there for him.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 29.
Well, a tiddler to middle escapes him.
Yes, a narrow angle, but with the cue ball right behind it, I didn't see that coming up as a possible shot he'd miss. There's the first ball that Mark Allen has spotted so far. Needs to dig in here. Great effort. Deserves to be on a red.
5.
Also
6.
nicely played. That was a very small gap between the two reds that he got through. Really good shot this. That's exactly
13.
the target. Right in behind the pink.
14. $21. 22.
He's a pretty quick player when he's in full cry. Mark Allen, his own way of hitting the
29.
ball. A punchy cue action. Not a long
30.
flowing backswing, but he gets through the ball with quick acceleration. And when he is playing well, that cue ball doesn't travel around the table very far. He's usually right in there.
36.
On the next ball, about a foot behind
37.
most of the time. Foot and a half. Here's a shot I always think looks odd for a left-hander who uses the rest right-handed. Because, of course, if he was right-handed, he would just lean across. And I think this is almost a blind spot for the likes of Mark Allen, Judd Trump, Barry Hawkins, all lefties who use the rest with the opposite hand. They almost can't get to it. As you're seeing.
Well, could have been better if he bounced the cue ball rather farther off the cushion. On the other hand, if it's on line for a direct cannon on the red nearest to the left middle pocket, that would be okay, as long as he pots the black.
Yes, because if he could do that, Clive, he might be able to stay on the other red. Anyway, I think he's going all around the table here instead. Well, he's done really well so far.
I think that was
52.
he played that shot because the cannon I was talking about perhaps wasn't quite on.
Good shot.
53.
I think the cannon that you were speaking about, Clive, is going to have to be on this time. Beautiful. Could not have played that any better.
59.
And probably another cannon here. If he plays the green, maybe flicking the red out up on the right cushion. Checking the scores, he'll need a further red anyhow. And he's gone with the brown. Well, it looked a bit straight, but he got very close to knocking it over the middle pocket. But a double to the left middle, I think,
64.
will seal the frame.
In it goes. So O'Sullivan paying the full penalty for missing a short range red to left middle.
67.
Quite brilliant, and this break has been something else. So many difficult shots in it. There's quite a special buzz in here tonight, Clive, and I think so far it's been entertaining, and I think we're in for a lot more of that.
73.
Yes, I think so too. Maybe a century in this frame.
75.
And this would be especially creditable century because the last three reds were all on cushions.
82. $87. 93.
An excellent century from Mark Allen, exactly 100. It was full of difficulty, but he overcame all those difficulties with great class. 1-1.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions tournament from Coventry. It's the second of our semi-finals. Earlier on, John Higgins won against Ding Junhui. Ronnie O'Sullivan and Mark Allen are battling for the right to play Higgins in the final. It's all square after the opening 2 frames. This is now the third. Commentary from Neil Folds and Clive Everton.
Not a good break-off. It's given Mark Allen a chance at this long red. And it was more or less a natural to get round behind the back of the black.
1.
He's got the easy tickle up behind bulk colour, but he's eyeing up the brown to the middle, which of course he's under a lot of pressure to pot, given that he's going to play on a red.
Mark Allen 1.
Caught the near jaw.
Well, there was a dead plant, which is a really handy opener, actually. Don't even know whether Mark knew that the plant was there. I don't suppose it makes any difference. He would have still taken the brown. Just meant that Ronnie couldn't miss opening red. And because Ronnie sat out a century and a very good one. And what he really wanted was what he's got, to be straight in.
9. $16. 17.
That's okay. For a second I wondered if it was going to finish over the top of the
24.
red that he's closest to, that cue ball, but not so.
25.
Doesn't have to go into the bunch here with there's a left red sticking out. He doesn't often miss the chance when it comes. I'm not sure entirely what he did play there.
Well, he didn't intend to
32.
flick the end red in the bunch. I think he intended to play a fuller contact on this red, which would have left him on red to right corner.
33.
Excellent rescue shot though.
Yeah, wasn't it just? Very awkward angle. I guess with the brown over the middle pocket, it meant he had a go-to colour for when it went in.
$38.
To get the feeling this match won't be a late night for the spectators, even if it goes 6-5, because
44.
these two, when they're on song, they rattle through the frames.
45.
I think that O'Sullivan relishes the battle more these days than he used to. He was perhaps somewhat more interested
52.
in quality of performance than actually winning, although of course
53.
he always did want to win. But it's been noticeable this season that even in the matches that he's lost, there's been no hint of throwing the towel in as he did sometimes in his earlier
60.
days. He's just lost on the day
61.
to somebody who's perhaps played marginally better.
On the brink here. Just the next red needed.
68. 69.
Well past the point of no return. I wouldn't be that
74.
surprised should Ronnie miss whether Mark Allen concedes anyway. But he hasn't missed, and he could go on and make a century yet.
75.
I think we can say that O'Sullivan has settled.
'81.
Well, it was a bit of a gift that he
82.
got in off the plant from the missed shot of that man, Mark Allen, who made such a good break in the previous. I'll be annoyed that he let Ronnie in, but that's not to say that it was easy after that. He's split the pack open twice,
89.
the second of which was virtually a
90.
frame clincher.
'97. 98.
Century number 832 of O'Sullivan's career.
103. 105.
Certainly a fair bet that he would make 1,000 centuries before he finally retires.
108. 112. 117.
Absolutely wonderful break, this.
123. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 130 and a frame.
Allen missed to middle. O'Sullivan replied with 130 and leads by 2 frames to 1.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions match between Mark Allen and Ronnie O'Sullivan. It is our second semi-final, Higgins having won the first, and O'Sullivan is ahead by 1 as we pick up the action in the 4th frame.
Lovely century from O'Sullivan in the last frame. Just one final word on the last frame. It was completed in only 7 minutes 17 seconds. Most of it occupied with O'Sullivan's 130.
Pretty good shot there from Mark. It does make me wonder though, Clive, when you think back to that 147 that Ronnie O'Sullivan made 5 minutes 20 seconds. I mean, you can never say that something will never be beaten. We know that in athletics all these records have stood and then eventually they've been beaten. How is anyone ever going to make a quicker 147 in competitive play than that? Hard to believe it's possible, isn't it?
It is difficult to believe, but maybe there's somebody out there, a young Chinese maybe, that we don't know about yet, who could do it.
Oh dear, that is a very poor shot indeed. He played to hit the red full on. Any sort of a half-ball contact was going to lead to problems, and it's the worst outcome of all.
One.
Well, the pink is very close. Of course, he can play the blue. The pink's harder, but it probably offers better and closer position on that red on the right of the table. It's a missable shot from where he's cueing it. Beautiful cueing. It either goes or it doesn't, but the bunch of reds are a distraction, and the distance between cue and object ball made it a sublime piece of cueing for me, that one.
Well, straightness of cueing underpins all the great shots these top players play.
Well, he's developing reds here
15.
in potting this one. Well, he'd be quite annoyed that he didn't give it a little bit
16.
more, a little bit extra on the screw back front. He could have really ploughed the cue ball back into and out of the bunch.
Green ball.
Refusing what is an obvious black that he can hit.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 16.
Very good. Poor safety from O'Sullivan, clipping a second red. Chance for Allen, a good one.
Yes, safety's not really played any sort of a part in this match so far. Both players have made one or two unforced errors which have presented chances of which, when they've come, either player's been pretty deadly so far.
Seven. Eight.
He needs to be deadly again here, I would say. The feature of the match this afternoon, I thought, was not only how good it was, but Ding Junhui made 4 century breaks and
15.
lost. And I think when he started leading 3-2 and 4-3, scores like that, he just couldn't get a couple of frames away from John Higgins. So we went to 5-all.
16.
And John was ready to win the match. If Ronnie won this frame to go 3-1, he could just run away with this. That's why this break is so important.
$23. 24. 31. 32. 39. 40.
'Alan seems to be on the way to 2-all and possibly the 3rd consecutive
46.
century of the match. Following his 100 in the
47.
second frame and O'Sullivan's 130 in the last.
He's got to make sure that he plays the right shot here, or otherwise that man is not out of the frame. He's looking at the fact that not many reds pot here. 2 reds pot to the right middle, but I'm not sure he's going to try and get there. So this is a pretty significant one. Oh yes, absolutely perfectly played.
52. 53. 58. 59.
So he needs another red after this black. And it will be 2-2 at the interval by the looks of things, Clive. Pretty squashbuckling first 4 frames here.
66.
Oh yes, the match has only been going 41 minutes.
67.
So it looks as if we're going to have 4 frames in 3/4 of an hour. Just flick those 2 reds open,
73.
increasing the possibility of a century.
74.
There was a safety mistake from Ronnie O'Sullivan that made it happen, and it was a
81.
unforced error. It wasn't really that Mark had gotten him in all kinds of trouble.
82.
Like I say, it's not been a tactical match at all, but it's been great fun to watch. And I expect more of the same.
89. 91. 100.
Lots of reverse side there, which
94.
with a favourable kiss has made the century very much possible.
98.
Three centuries in 3 frames, 2 from Allen, 1 from O'Sullivan.
109. Mark Allen, 109.
4 frames in only 43 minutes, 3 centuries. What else do you want? It's 2-all at the mid-session interval.
Ronnie O'Sullivan and Mark Allen in.
Cameras and phones away now, please.
Not a good break-off shot from O'Sullivan.
Yes, of course, it wasn't an easy red, but at the level they've been playing, he always fancied him to mop that in and start scoring again. Just hit it on the thick side. When he played that well, he didn't want to go too far towards baulk because he thought he'd get the pot. Played with left hand screw and reverse side.
5.
Oh dear, that's a rarity. Ronnie actually misses very few of those left-handed shots.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 5.
Yeah, bread and butter shot at that range.
Actually, you can hardly ever remember him missing one of those sort of shots with his opposite hand at all the years. Suffering a bit at the moment, Mark Allen. He's, you know, scoring heavily in the balls, but every time he does miss, he sticks running straight back in. Not a good idea when you're playing someone
1.
as well, prolific a scorer as Ronnie O'Sullivan, of course.
Six. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 6.
Slightly overcut. The only crumb of consolation being that he was always covering the pocket with the black if the red didn't drop.
I think he's happy enough with that. Just the fact that he's cleared the red away. There was a bit of an ooh and an ah because it didn't go in.
Well, it would have had to have been a very thin contact, and in attempting that he could easily have missed the red altogether. Quite happy to get everything safe. think I gave it at the top of the frame.
Well, he's not, despite having a clear shot at a number of reds, he's not happy with any of them. So just the attempted lay on the bunch. It's
Mark Allen 6.
going into the pink. I didn't really see that happening. And of course, he had a clear shot, so you wouldn't want to be messing around here with doing that again, hitting the pink, because it'd be on the 3 strikes and out rule, whereby, of course, if you do miss for a third time when you've got a clear shot, then the frame is over against you. Which would clearly force him into a different shot to the one that he's trying now. I'm sure he'll make the adjustment. So a little bit of safety play, which might take the sting out of the match, but Reds are still wide open. Ronnie playing that really more, I think, to get the cue ball back than to pot it, and tapped on the table there, or tap on the table from Mark Allen to acknowledge a good shot. And I think, yeah, it's got a way back to Volk. You can see a red on the left. But of course, the longer we get involved in bouts of safety like this, sometimes the Reds end up safe.
Had a chance to get behind the green there, but didn't quite manage it. Still not interested in the red to right corner because it's so dangerous, and even if he got it, position wouldn't have been guaranteed. Didn't make a good job of the shot he chose though.
Well, whoever wins this match tonight, Clive, they're scoring well enough to potentially beat John Higgins in tomorrow's final, but they'll both have to brush up on their safety play, I think, to beat him.
Yes, I agree. I think O'Sullivan's brilliance is all in there, but at the moment he shows a greater propensity for unforced errors than he does at his best.
Seven.
Interesting to see how many he can make here. We've had, as you say, Clive, 3 centuries in this match in successive frames. A break of 60 here would be pretty invaluable.
12.
Very difficult table. Beyond a certain point, anyway.
13. $20. 21. 26. 27. 34.
3 more reds for O'Sullivan that I would regard as certainties or near
35.
certainties.
Yeah, and that'll take him very close in this frame.
42. 43.
And he widened an angle there by hitting it with a lot of pace. He knows that he didn't worry too much about the safe reds right now. 55 the difference.
50.
Still 75 on, but that goes down by 8 points now. That red's knocked in
51.
the remaining. And at some point, Ronnie hopes that one will overtake the other. But he still needs another red, as that
56.
will tell you on screen. So, probably he's got here, Clive. He's going into the other reds. He doesn't really want to, does he?
No. This is frame ball and not an easy one.
57.
There's always bound to develop one more red, like it or not.
Yes, and he was able to cue the black centre striking.
64.
Well, it would be quite a remarkable century should he make it. Now the frame is safe.
65.
I'm not sure what the route is here, but it's the scenic route onto the next red. I always thought the yellow looked like it was in the way. Anyhow, the double. If this double goes in, he probably develops everything else,
72.
actually, the 2 reds and the pink, so it could all happen here.
Well, this is terrific stuff. That wasn't.
Ronnie O'Sullivan 73 on the frame.
But the break of 73 enables Ronnie O'Sullivan to lead by 3 frames to 2.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions and the second semi-final. It's Ronnie O'Sullivan against
Frame
Mark
6.
Allen. O'Sullivan has
Allen's
just
frame.
taken the 5th frame as we pick up the action at the start of the 6th.
So for the 3rd time this evening, Mark Allen is the odd frame behind, and again he needs to respond. Terrific match in front of this full house, and they're absolutely loving it. Extra seating had to be installed to accommodate the demand.
Well, it's not the kiss he was looking for, actually, on the brown. A little thin. And if he could have caught a bit more of it, he might have been on the brown. Well, he's playing this, I think. This is very difficult. Mr. Brown in the middle bag. Earlier, didn't he? Which Ronnie scored heavily off, made a century.
Yeah, and again, Alan put the colour on the near jaw, slightly overcut it.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back a few years, players invariably wouldn't have taken that on. They'd have tried to roll in behind it. Doesn't mean that Mark's done the wrong thing. All it means is people's percentages have changed.
Yeah, sure.
Because the game's never really changed, Clive, has it? You go for what you think you can pot. And if you don't think you can pot it, you play safe. But now they think they can pot more than they, perhaps the players of yesteryear would. And they do.
1.
And Mark Allen knows he has to be aggressive and get Ronnie on the back foot. I don't think he played the wrong shot, he just missed it.
Three. Four.
But as I was saying, a gap of a couple of frames here might be quite hard to peg back, because Ronnie is scoring when he's in the balls very well.
9. 10.
Well, been playing an hour and a lot's happened during that time.
5 frames completed.
17. 18.
Well, he'd like to be straightish on this black, so he can screw back for the 2 reds to the same pocket, and he has got that angle.
25.
There's never been anybody that makes the
26.
game look easier than this man.
$33. 34. 39. 40.
Swinging the cue ball round off 2 cushions meant he could get closer to the black. Just rolling it through.
Preferred to go into the bunch because there was a
47.
friendly gap between the 2 outside reds.
48. 55. 56.
Frame winning break coming up, and maybe even the 4th century of the match.
$63. Yes, but this is the one to make that frame safe. Never for 1 second thought he'd miss it.
64. $70. 71.
This could be 4 centuries in 5 frames.
78.
100 by Allen in the second frame. 130
79.
from O'Sullivan in the third. 109 from Allen in the fourth. The sequence interrupted in the fifth, which O'Sullivan clinched with 73.
85.
And now he had to pull out
86.
an absolutely superlative pot to keep the possibility of yet another century going.
93.
Purposely
94.
played down on 2 low-value colours to make it easy to get onto the yellow.
$97. 99.
Well, this is snooker fit for the gods.
$102.
4 centuries in 5 frames between them.
106. 111.
2 of O'Sullivan's have started in the same way, with Allen missing to a middle pocket.
117. Ronnie O'Sullivan,
And with that
124
clearance
in the front.
of 124, Ronnie O'Sullivan goes 2 frames clear. He leads by 4 frames to 2.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions tournament from Coventry. It is now the second semi-final, John Higgins having won the first. Ronnie O'Sullivan has now opened up a 2-frame lead over Northern Ireland's Mark Allen. This is now the 7th. Commentary from Neil Foulds and Clive Everton.
Just a little nod of the head from Mark Allen there, acknowledging a pretty watertight break-off shot by the looks of things. Cue ball right underneath that bolt cushion. There's nobody playing the game that likes it from there. But you made the point, and it was a good one, Clive, that those 2 big breaks of O'Sullivan's came from virtually a carbon copy. Bolt colour to middle pocket from quite a long way away, not right behind either. And as we know, players knock those in, but you really have to get them.
Allen always knew that he was leaving a red to left middle, but assumed that O'Sullivan would regard it as too difficult. He must also have known there was some danger of leaving a possibility with that red. But from where he was, what other shot could he have played?
Very well executed though from O'Sullivan. The way that he got the cue ball in behind the blue perfectly.
6.
He could be off again here. He was a little jittery in the
7.
first frame. And now he went on to win it with a 51 break, but his cue ball was not under control. That seems a long time ago now. He's stepped up a few gears since then.
14. $15.
Well, even with the extremely high standards that O'Sullivan sets himself,
22.
I can't see how,
23.
apart from the first frame, he could possibly be dissatisfied with his performance this evening.
Don't bank on that, Clive. We've heard Ronnie O'Sullivan interviews before, but I know what you mean. He shouldn't be.
30.
Only 13 seconds per shot is he averaging.
31.
But that's mostly because his positional play is so good that he's playing from exactly the position he expects to be playing from. And he's leaving, of course, a succession of simple pots, usually.
38.
Well, not only the pot here, but clearly the angle on the next colour to go into the bunch. And I think he's got that.
39.
The bunch aren't perfect this time. If he doesn't get this right, the cue ball could just slide off them up the table. But this man is a master at breaking them open. He's on something, albeit a long red, perhaps, into the green pocket.
46.
So again,
47.
he stitches a break together with a red to a distant baulk pocket. I don't think it's a case quite of no more bets on
54.
this frame, but it's close.
Yeah, we showed you that shot in the previous frame.
55.
That was a lot more difficult. That was like a penalty kick, wasn't it? The one up the table compared to that one. This really is marvellous snooker. And any questions that have been raised,
62.
and a few of us guys have done it, whether Ronnie's playing as well as perhaps in the past, I think he's answering them right here, because he's playing and looking as deadly as ever. Next ready pots here will be
70.
another frame gone. It's a 5-minute frame, Clive,
71.
and it's over.
The break is only 4 minutes 20.
78.
Another one of these very close-up shots. These really shouldn't be going in. And they are. This is unbelievable stuff.
79.
Well, even for O'Sullivan, this is a pretty unbelievable standard we're seeing.
86. 87.
Yeah,
94.
has he gone far enough? Maybe.
95.
Five centuries in 6 frames. Breathtaking.
102. 103.
Two from Allen. 3 from O'Sullivan.
109. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 109 on the frame.
Another wonderful break of 109. O'Sullivan's second century in succession puts him 3 up with 4 to play with a 5-2 lead.
Welcome back to the Champion of Champions match between Mark Allen and Ronnie O'Sullivan. It is the second semi-final. John Higgins won the first. Ronnie O'Sullivan is now just 1 frame away from a place in the final as we pick up the action in the 8th.
Mark Allen has made 2 centuries, and unless he wins this frame, he's going to lose 6-2 to Ronnie O'Sullivan.
I shared a joke there with Ronnie. I can't imagine what he could have said, but he'd like to get a few chances. And that last break, well, Mark didn't really do a lot wrong. The opening red was to the left middle was a beauty. There are people that enjoy the stats out there. You mentioned one earlier, Clive, about as many centuries today, and which clearly has been surpassed, and there was in one of the championships of the past. But if you want to know how many centuries there's been, what's the record for 6 frames of snooker? How many centuries? Well, the answer is 6, because it happened in the qualifier last year. Kyron Wilson and Anthony Hamilton, they had 6 centuries between them in successive frames. But this has been quite spellbinding tonight, hasn't it?
Well, simply special. O'Sullivan's safety catches the blue and leaves Allen a possibility.
Difficult shot the way he played it. He tried to pot it and indeed cannon the 2 reds and finish on the black. I think the cannon was probably only on if the pot hit thick like that.
And it certainly made it no easier that Allen has scored only 7 points in the last 3 frames. O'Sullivan's cannon from his initial red onto the black was not ideal.
No, it's very thin, this. He has to go around the table. A little bit of hit and hope this time. It's not something Ronnie employs very often. There may be something available to the left corner, and I think the black will go as well to the right corner. It's not a simple shot. It's a little bit complicated over there. Little touch of side, right hand side on this. Swing the cue wider, and that's not bad at all. That's, again, a pretty good bust up of the pack.
16.
But he's not on the red, I don't think, to the right corner. That's a rarity. Well, the table is making even Ronnie O'Sullivan think here. Pulling this red and getting on to the next colour is anything but easy.
Not on the pink as he meant to be.
No, and it's one of these shots that he's been knocking in for fun if he plays the pink, but the yellow might interest him as well. Well, I think he hit the green because the yellow didn't go in cleanly. It went in
19.
thick, so the cue ball didn't come round as he anticipated.
The potting machine
Ronnie
breaks
O'Sullivan,
down.
19.
And it comes as a shock to us all when it does, when he's in this form. Probably a shock to Mark Allen, actually.
One.
He hit that well. He wanted to be at least straight on the pink. I think he's got straightness of angle just to avoid going up and down the table.
Seven.
What can Alan do? He can only stick to his game, stick to his method, stick to his self-belief.
Eight.
Intended to be better on the pink. Thinking about potting the green cushion first. Went back to the pink, which was more difficult, but it was the only way he had a very good chance of leaving good position.
14.
Yes, what he needs is an angle on here, and he has a slight angle to get up the table.
15. $21. $22. $28. $29.
Building these up quite nicely now.
Yeah, this is a pretty good effort, Clive, isn't it? When he's been on the receiving end for quite some time now. And they've not all been there.
37.
Is that to really think about this break? It's not enough yet, but it's still a good performance for me. That's a little bit of a shame. That will annoy him because the top bet of the two close together is potable, but he tried to develop one or two others as well. Now you see the position. If he could have got away from that red, he was on a choice of two, especially the top one, I think. But now he really has to make sure that this contribution ends with a top-class safety shot. Because what we've seen of Ronnie O'Sullivan, he could clear up from anywhere tonight.
Mark Allen, 44.
To lead by 25.
Well, I guess from Ronnie's perspective, you know, he thought that the cue ball was heading back around him behind the black and up the table, so it gave him good incentive to play the shot. Still a good one. This will be a good one as well on the blue. Oh, that's got the blue back on the spot. Like I said, he could clear up here.
6. Seven.
He didn't really play on the black. It only goes in half a pocket, so pink it is. I think that's the red
13.
that earlier on Mark Allen played on after the cannon.
14.
Well, these haven't been easy shots all week, but at least from where he's playing
21.
it, he can drop it in because he's got quite an angle on this.
22.
Gradually, the winning clearance is coming in sight.
29.
Again, more accuracy required on this shot.
Yes, it.
Stopping to get the cue ball clean, but as you can see, tells you from that angle, the red isn't very close to the pocket. Another
30.
marvellous shot, and the angle is there to get up for the red.
$37.
Well, he looks at the scores. 12 the difference. And it's really all about one shot
38.
now. And the two cushions up for the yellow, in behind the yellow. Well, he's really hit the zone tonight. Players can do that, where they have a little spell where they're almost mesmerised out there. But when O'Sullivan does it, it's something else.
47.
This has been a consummate performance from O'Sullivan. He's made 3 centuries. He's still trying to work out whether he needs brown as well as the green.
Well, I think this audience have enjoyed it, and if you've enjoyed watching snooker over the last 20 years, you're in for a treat tomorrow, I think. You're going to see 2 of the great modern-day players in action.
At his best, O'Sullivan is the best. And tonight, he was at his best. He made 3 centuries in beating Mark Allen by 6 frames to 2.
Mark Allen throws in the towel as Ronnie O'Sullivan wins